Our returning special guest musician today is Timothy Edwards. I can do no appropriate justice to his impressive background with a few mere words. I suggest you read about Tim in your order of service, and as he plays, your own ears will hear exactly why we are so fortunate to have him grace our church. Tim? Gives me chill bumps. I invite you to listen to the opening words by Reverend Dr. David Breeden. Welcome all to this place of love and justice, this place where we attempt to live up to humanity's highest ideals, highest hopes. Do we fail? Often. Do we try again? Always. Because we are a people looking out for each other, all others, and the planet. Welcome all to this place of love and justice, to this gathering where the sacred and the holy are us together. The symbol of our faith is a chalice with a flame. Each Sunday, a member of our congregation lights our chalice as we hear words that remind us why this is important to us. This Wednesday is National Black HIV/AIDS Awareness Day, and as Ken Weintraub comes forward to light the chalice, let us pause and hold our beloved siblings in love and support as we listen to the words of Anastasia Brioche. The spark of love resides in us all. We are free to act from it or not. If we choose love, how will love shape what we do? If we choose love, how will it improve our actions? If we choose love, how will we treat those around us? If we choose love, will we still choose it when life gets hard? If I choose love, will you also choose love? Love begets love, and it is love that lights our chalice. Thank you, Ken. I invite you to please rise in body or spirit and join in singing along with our song leaders. Do we have song leaders today? Yes, we do. Sing our opening hymn number 95 in the gray hymnal, More Love Somewhere. Good morning. I am Donna Zimmerman, and I'm your worship leader this morning. We are happy that you have chosen to join us on this first Sunday in February, which also happens to be Groundhog Day. And apparently that prognosticating rodent, Puxatawny Phil, has determined that we will have 6 more weeks of winter. So don't put away your winter clothing just yet. Welcome one and all to our UU community. We welcome you whoever you are, whatever gender, race, sexual orientation, age, ability, education level, or financial status, or whatever other artificial labels some attach to try to keep us separated. Through all your time together with us, may you experience love. Our spiritual theme for the month of February is inclusion. The elements of our services throughout the month will have us look at inclusion and why that is essential for our growth and spiritual development. We have all come to this church from many different paths, from just about every faith tradition and no faith. What unites us is our personal search for truth, growth, justice, love, and service. This is embodied in the values of our denomination, which you'll find listed on the back of your order of service. That's where our commonality is. Together, we support each other in our individual journeys. If this is your first time here or a returning guest, I invite you to stop at the table at the entrance and get some information about our denomination and our church, and get a name tag so that we can start to get to know you. After the services, there will be refreshments in the windows at the back where we spend time socializing. We hope you find a safe, welcoming, loving, and inclusive community here. Remember, it is easy to acknowledge all these high ideals in the comfort of this church, but we cannot make a difference in the world by just showing up at church. We need to be the church and live our values out in the world to make a difference. If you will please ensure that your phones and other electronic devices are turned off, we will enter this sacred time together. As I mentioned earlier, the UU denomination doesn't have a required creed or theology that all must believe on their path to spiritual growth. Rather, we have principles that guide us to be our best selves. This includes how we choose to be in relationship together. In addition, members of BBUUC came together to develop our own commitment to each other. We say this agreement, this covenant, every Sunday to remind ourselves of these intentions. Please remain seated and join me in reciting our congregational covenant, which is printed in your order of service. We covenant to engage one another with honesty, kindness, and respect, to value diversity, seek understanding of our differences, and practice gracious accountability with care, love, and empathy. We make these promises to those who are here and those yet to come, so that we may be a safe, welcoming, and beloved community of acceptance, learning, and transformation. Now please rise in body or spirit and join in singing our call to worship. The words are also printed in your order of service. Tim, Gary, thank you. As Chuck Smithers and Ted Clisby come forward to assist with the offering, I remind you that our shared responsibility is demonstrated during our offering when you are invited to open your hearts and your wallets to engage in a spiritual practice of generosity. For almost 35 years, the support of this community has allowed BBUUC to be a beacon for liberal religious values in our city. Your gifts will sustain both the church and the work we do in our community that demonstrates our values. We are completely self-supporting, and we thank you for your ongoing faithfulness to your pledge. We provide many ways to give: electronic, QR code, in the order of service, link on our website, bank drafts, and we still do pass the plate. No matter how you choose to give, even if it's monthly in a bank draft, we still do this act because it's a community act. Please take the plate and pass it to your neighbor or the row around you, and add your good energy to this tradition. If you are new to this church or a visitor in any way, it may come as a surprise to you that we do not have a professional minister on staff. In fact, our staff is teensy tiny. Everything that you see done here in this church and in the name of the church is done by our volunteers, who are no less professional than any person of credentials. We are very, very fortunate to have a member of our worship team, Alyssa Halliday, today, who is going to be presenting a sermon written by a minister in a UU congregation. Spiritual lessons come in sometimes the most unlikely of places. Don't overlook a spiritual lesson just because it seems to be fluffy and fuzzy. Alyssa?
Thank you, Donna. This sermon is by Reverend Tess Baumberger, and as Donna had mentioned earlier in the service, it ties into our Soul Matters theme for this month of February, which is living love through the practice of inclusion. Reverend Tess begins. They warned us about this in seminary, that when you start preaching on a regular basis, anything and everything can become sermon fodder. It is an occupational hazard. You can be kicking back and watching a sitcom on television when suddenly you sit up and say, I could use that in a sermon. Or you could be watching a film in a movie theater or at home on television when it hits you. That's the story embodies a religious concept so well, you must use it in a sermon. This happens to me quite often because I love watching movies. Now, when it comes to sermon fodder, some movies stand head and shoulders, or should I say flippers and beaks, over other movies with religious themes. Today, I'm going to talk about a film that in ways both silly and wise addresses some deep issues about how we can live together on this earth, and also in our theologically diverse Unitarian Universalist congregations. I am speaking, of course, of that epic, great movie, Muppets from Space. This fine film's religious themes are obvious from its first scene. We see an ark, Noah's Ark, in a desolate landscape. Clouds glower menacingly in the horizon and lightning strikes. We see animals entering the ark 2 by 2. And then, in the foreground, we see the distinctive profile of our hero. He even has a heroic name, Gonzo the Great. Yes, Gonzo, with his funny little beaky thing, who loves chickens and who shoots himself from cannons for fun. That Gonzo. Gonzo rushes up to the ark and speaks to Noah, who he addresses as Mr. the Ark. He says he thought he'd missed the boat. Noah asks him, "What are you?" It so happens that a related question, "Who are you?" is a central religious question. Gonzo replies, "Well, put me down as whatever." Noah asks, "What is your species?" And Gonzo says, "There's only one of me." Noah replies in a deep voice, rolling like the thunder itself, "Then you are doomed." He slams the door shut, and Gonzo looks up at the heavens and cries from the depths of his furry little soul, "No, no, I don't want to be alone. No." It is, of course, only a nightmare that Gonzo is having, but it sets the stage for a story of self-discovery, Gonzo's quest to solve the problem of his own identity. Now, that sounds like a spiritual journey to me. The story has elements that may be familiar to many of us when we think about our own paths, the paths that led us here today. Many people who enter houses of worship these days have never been part of a congregation before. Their lack of religious background, coupled with the isolation so rampant in our society, might leave them feeling like spiritual oddities, like there is no place where they would fit in, spiritually speaking. Like Gonzo approaching the ark, they see what looks like a haven of safety in a threatening world and are drawn to it. Like Gonzo, some might find church doors slammed in their faces, and this may be because their theology is too different for that place, or because their social values are too liberal, or because they are gay or lesbian, transgendered, or bisexual. And as doors close to them, like Gonzo, the spirits of these searchers might cry out to the heavens, "No, no, I don't want to be alone." Others who come to us seeking religious community have had experience with churches in the past. However, their beliefs may have changed so much over time that they no longer fit in. Or, as often happens in the queer community, when they come out, their faiths of origin push them out. These people can feel cut off from their religious roots, which is a source of grief. Many no longer know who they are as religious people, but need a safe haven. People who visit houses of worship are, at some level, trying to solve the problem of their religious identity. Like Gonzo, they want to know where they belong. People who come to us, having been rejected by other churches, desire a safe place in which to explore the question of their religious or spiritual identity. If we are able to provide that for them, they can make our lives more beautiful. Sometimes we succeed in doing this, sometimes we fail. Reverend Tess continues, "It is not just other churches that slam doors in people's faces. For example, a mother and her adult disabled child came for a while to the church I was serving in Franklin, New Hampshire. There was no place for the daughter's wheelchair amongst our pews. She stuck out in the middle aisle, and after a while, they stopped coming. I learned from this experience that we need to be ready to accept people with special needs. Another family that attended for a while stopped because they said we were too political. It is true that our congregations can be uncomfortable for people who are anywhere right of left. It's important to recognize the complexity of issues and the diversity of views that can be held by religiously liberal people. After all, there is a place amongst the Muppets for ultra-American Sam the Eagle. He teaches the chickens aerobics in the mornings. He sits at the same table with all the others. Gonzo needed gentle acceptance and support on his journey of self-discovery. We all look for guidance in our spiritual journeys. For Moses, it came through a burning bush. For Gonzo, it is through food. At the beginning of the movie, his Captain America alphabet cereal, spells out a message telling him to watch the sky. As he sits on the roof doing so, as a great mysterious force strikes him and transports him to this starry realm, and he meets cosmic knowledge fish. The cosmic knowledge fish reveals that Gonzo is a space alien and that his people are trying to reach him. So he's not alone after all. Gonzo's attempts to contact his alien family land him in trouble with a secret government agency looking out for the threat of alien invasion. They imprison poor Gonzo, The Muppet gang responds by rallying round and forming a rescue party. They find Gonzo, break him out, making their getaway in the Electric Mayhem Band's multicolored bus. Kermit, the wise leader, says, quote, "See, guys, when we pull together, we can do anything," end quote. And that's when Gonzo informs them that they need to go to the beach at Point Doom because his sandwich told him to do so. See, I told you Gonzo receives spiritual guidance from food. Everyone groans, but Kermit says to Gonzo, "It doesn't matter what we believe. I mean, if you believe you need to go to meet your alien brothers, then I say we're going to the beach." So they do, of course. And here's where I think this movie can teach us some deep lessons about how to be together in religious community. The Muppets, out of love for one another, are willing to stretch themselves in order to accept and support Gonzo on his journey of discovery. They do this even though they don't believe that he's really receiving messages from the beyond. Now, we're not expected to support each other in beliefs quite as out there as Gonzo's. However, some of the beliefs of our brothers and sisters in faith may seem very alien to our worldview. Their religious or political beliefs, or the way they live their lives, may be completely different from our own. Nevertheless, our value of inclusion calls us to accept and support others in our journey. Nothing says this will be easy. However, I believe any religion worth its salt should take us beyond our comfort zones and challenge us to grow. Muppets from Space provides an extreme example of a diverse community committing to support one of its members in his admittedly odd life journey. But in doing so, this ragtag group often demonstrates what it means to be in healthy community. For instance, they know that they're all different from one another, yet in some important ways, they're very similar. They have a good sense of their separate identities and of their identity as a group. They know what their individual gifts are and contribute them to the group's efforts. Moreover, the Muppet gang has a good sense of loyalty to one another. For instance, when the gang gets together to go rescue Gonzo, Kermit says they're going even though it's dangerous. Quote, "Because Gonzo is one of us, and no matter what happens and no matter what obstacles we face, we never forget one of our own." End quote. Of course, poking fun at Muppet imperfection, someone immediately points out to Kermit that they just forgot Beaker and Dr. Bunsen Honeydew back at the gas station. The heroic music that had been playing in the background winds down, but Kermit quickly recovers and says, "Well, from now on, we never forget one of our own." And of course, the heroic music gears up again. Reverend Tess says, "To me, this shows what it means to be covenantal community. We look out for each other and promote one another's well-being, knowing we will do this imperfectly. Sometimes we mess up, we drop the ball, we leave some members behind. The best we can do when that happens is to make amends as well as we can and to resolve to do better in the future." In the movie, Muppets from Space, the Muppet gang waits with Gonzo on the beach until his alien family appears. Gonzo finally solves the problem of where he came from and who he is. But he still faces the problem of where he belongs. Does he belong with the alien family that he just met who look like him? Or is his place with his ragtag Muppet family? You can guess how it ends. Gonzo stays with those who loved and supported him on his journey. The people who come to us seeking answers to the questions of their own religious identities may face this choice at some point. Do they find communities with others that look like them? Or do they join our congregations with members whose beliefs and lives are as varied as the Muppets look? Reverend Tess explains, "My own religious journeys has brought me close to my liberal Christian roots, something I would have never expected when I first entered a Unitarian Universalist church nearly 30 years ago. On the way to where I am now, I found some healing with the goddess, read works by Buddhist teachers like Thich Nhat Hanh, learned about Jewish religious traditions, and developed a yoga practice. I could not have taken all those stops along my journey in most churches. I love this about our faith. The many sources of inspiration open to us allow us to explore a wide range of spiritual paths in the same religious community. And I choose to remain here because I love the diversity our acceptance of one another can create. I love being in community with people who believe very differently from me. Maybe that's true of Gonzo as well. To me, it's more interesting to be among people that look or feel or believe differently. To me, it's more beautiful that way. Wherever those who seek amongst us end up, with us or in other religious communities, I salute them for their taking up the question of their spiritual identities. I hope we can provide safe haven for seekers to explore their beliefs. If they go back to their faiths of origin, I hope they find love and acceptance. If they go to faiths where everyone holds very similar beliefs, I hope they find a sense of belonging and connection. If they choose to stay with us, I welcome them with an open and thankful heart, like Kermit and the rest of the Muppets did for Gonzo. I accept them as they are and will support them loyally in their spiritual journeys, however different those journeys are from my own, wherever those journeys take them. You see, I believe that when we are accepted as we are, we grow in self-esteem. This growth can uncover gifts we never knew we had, so that we stand a little taller and bloom a little brighter into this, our lovely bouquet of color, scents, and sizes. Or should I say, our variegated crew of fur, beaks, feathers, flippers, fins, waggly ears, and bulgy eyes. We are earthlings, after all. The Reverend Tess Baumberger.
Who would have believed that such a profound spiritual message could come from Gonzo, Kermit, and the Muppets? Please rise in body or spirit and join our song leaders for the closing hymn, Let It Be a Dance, number 311 in the gray hymnal, then remain standing for the closing words. Ken Weintraub will return to extinguish the chalice as I say these closing words. May we take to heart the wise words of Kermit the Frog. When we pull together, we can do anything, end quote. Together means all of us. The Muppets, out of love for one another, are willing to stretch themselves in order to support one who is a wee bit different. This chalice light goes out. However, may the meaning of love, support, and expansion of our circle remain lit in our hearts and our actions. As you return to the world from this space of safety and inclusion, I invite you to open your arms to dance and raise your voices to sing and genuinely include others to join you. May it be so.